What? What is this? How can a child be born with such a mark? No, this can't be right. This isn't a blessing. It's a curse.
Harlem was more vibrant than ever during the biggest cultural festival of the year. A celebration of colours, music, and endless stories. Vendors showcased their finest products, performers dazzled with mesmerising acts, and the rhythmic beat of drums blended with the laughter of children, echoing through every street. This was a time for the entire community to come together, not only to celebrate their culture but to write new chapters in their lives. Noah, whose gaze was typically sharp and unyielding, found himself captivated by the rhythm of the festival. He wasn't just there to enjoy the festivities, but also to seek new business opportunities. However, fate had something entirely unexpected in store for him that day. A woman who would make his heart stir for the first time in years. Her name was Amara. Amara was unlike anyone Noah had ever met. She stood at her family's small stall, where exquisitely crafted handmade goods were neatly displayed. While other vendors clamoured for the attention of passers-by, Amara stood there, natural and serene, as if she didn't need to try to shine. Even in her simple attire, she exuded a unique confidence and charm. Noah stopped, pretending to examine the items closely. "These are beautiful. Did you make them yourself?" he asked, his voice attempting to sound casual, though his eyes betrayed his curiosity. Amara looked up at him, her eyes sparkling like sunlight piercing through a forest. "My mother taught me. But if you want something truly special, I can make you a basket, big enough to hold even your secrets," she replied with a playful smile. Her words made Noah laugh, a rare occurrence. For a moment, he forgot the burdens of work and the harsh realities of the business world. But that wasn't the last time Noah visited Amara's stall. From that day on, he came by daily, always making excuses to look at more products, but in truth, he simply wanted to talk to her. Their conversations were filled with wit and understanding, as if they had known each other for years. Before long, Noah realized he wasn't just drawn to Amara's outward beauty, but also to her sharp intellect and deep soul. She was unlike any woman he had ever encountered. Strong, confident, yet tender in a way he deeply longed for. Just a few months later, they were married. Their wedding was the biggest event Harlem had ever seen, drawing the participation of the entire community. Noah, a man once lonely in his wealth, had finally found a companion, someone who would bring light and warmth to his life. Yet, even as their love blossomed, fate silently prepared great challenges, trials that would not only test their love, but also shape the future of their family. Late at night, when the bustling streets of Harlem had sunk into silence, a scream tore through the stillness, yanking everyone back to reality. In the largest house on the street, a light from the second floor blazed like a beacon in the dark. Inside, Noah, a powerful and wealthy businessman, paced back and forth like a caged tiger, his usually sharp eyes now clouded with worry. "Is it a boy? Will it be the one to carry on my name?" he whispered, his voice trembling, his gaze fixed on the door to the delivery room. His hands clenched so tightly that his knuckles turned white, and the wedding ring on his finger seemed to press harder against his skin. Noah had never been one to pray. To him, success came not from fate or luck, but from calculation and effort. Yet tonight he placed all his hope in a single prayer: a son, someone to continue his legacy. The delivery room door swung open. A midwife emerged, but her expression did not bring the good news he had expected. Her pale face and anxious eyes glimmered in the dim light. "It's a boy, sir," she said, her voice unsteady as though holding back something unspeakable. Noah wasted no time. He burst into the room, his heart pounding, his chest feeling as though it might collapse under the weight of anticipation. It was a moment he thought would overflow with joy. Instead, he was frozen in shock. Amara, his wife, lay on the bed, exhausted but glowing with pride as she cradled the baby in her arms. The boy's cries filled the room, strong and full of life, yet Noah's attention was quickly drawn to something else, a strange mark on the infant's tiny wrist. It was no ordinary birthmark. It took the shape of a snake coiled around the boy's wrist as if alive. The snake's head rested on the wrist, its eyes seemingly staring directly at Noah. "What is this?" he exclaimed, his voice a mix of horror and anger. Amara, still managing a soft smile, gently replied, "It's just a birthmark, Noah. This is our son." But Noah couldn't tear his eyes away from the mark. A cold sensation crept over him, sending shivers down his spine. "No, this child isn't normal. He's cursed." Noah stepped back, his eyes wide, his voice echoing through the room. Amara gasped, tears streaming down her cheeks. "How could you say that? He's your son. He's ours." But Noah didn't respond. He turned on his heels and left the room, leaving Amara behind, heartbroken and shattered. As Noah departed, the night wind slipped through the cracks of the window, leaving an eerie chill in the air. In Amara's arms, the baby stopped crying, his tiny eyes fluttering open. And somewhere, deep within the hidden alleys of Harlem, an ominous sense of change began to take root. A transformation that would shape not only this family's destiny, but the fate of the entire community around them. Harlem, the heart of dreams and aspirations, shone not only with dazzling lights and the rhythmic beat of drums each evening. It was a place where everyday stories turned into legends, where someone could start from nothing and build an empire. Noah was living proof of that. Born into a poor family, Noah's life was once a series of struggles through crowded market streets, where the aroma of street food mixed with the relentless calls of vendors. The meager coins he earned selling small trinkets were his only hope of escaping the shadow of poverty that loomed over him. But Noah was different from other street vendors. He had a unique gift. His words were sharp and precise, like the edge of a blade. His eyes seemed to pierce straight into the soul of those he spoke with, and his hands were always ready to seize any opportunity that came his way. Customers, partners, even competitors found themselves unable to resist the hypnotic pull of his persuasive words. In just a decade, Noah had surpassed all expectations. He didn't just make money, he owned massive buildings and shops scattered across Harlem's bustling streets. His name became synonymous with success. People said, Noah can turn everything he touches into gold. Yet behind the glamour, an aching emptiness grew within Noah. Dinner in his expansive home felt more like a silent funeral, with only the faint clinking of silverware on porcelain plates breaking the stillness. The echo of his footsteps on the cold marble floors seemed like invisible sighs, drowning him in solitude. One evening, during a gathering with friends at a luxurious bar, an old acquaintance, now a successful businessman himself, leaned over, patted him on the shoulder and said, "Everything you have is incredible. But Noah, what's the point of all this wealth if there's no one to inherit it?" Those words struck Noah like an arrow to the heart. He forced a hollow smile to hide his emotions, but deep down, he knew his friend was right. The grand rooms, the enormous fortune, the dazzling reputation, all of it felt meaningless without someone to share it with. Noah needed a family, not just to fill the void in his life, but to protect the legacy he had painstakingly built. An heir, someone who would carry on his name and the legend he had created. But as Noah dwelled on this thought, an unshakable fear began to creep into his mind. What if his heir didn't turn out to be what he expected? That question haunted him day and night, and it was this very question that led him to a decision that would change his life forever. A few weeks later, Harlem's grand cultural festival transformed every street into a vibrant tapestry of life. Drums echoed, laughter filled the air, and dazzling lights blended together to create a scene straight out of a fairy tale. Noah, as usual, strolled through the stalls, his eyes scanning for new business opportunities. But then he stopped, his feet rooted to the ground. Before him was a small, modest, yet inviting stall. Standing there was a woman whose smile outshone even the lanterns around her. She was Amara. Amara wasn't just beautiful, she radiated a confidence and intelligence Noah had never seen in anyone before. She wore a simple dress, but her graceful demeanor made everything around her fade into the background. She was selling handcrafted items, and the way she interacted with her customers, with joy and elegance, left Noah utterly captivated. He stepped closer, pretending to browse the items on display. "These are really beautiful. Did you make them yourself?" he asked, trying to keep his tone calm, though his eyes betrayed a deeper fascination with her. Amara looked up, her eyes sparkling. "My mother taught me, but if you want something truly special, I can make you a basket big enough to hold all your secrets," she replied with a playful smile. Her words made Noah burst into laughter, a rare sound for him. For the first time in years, he felt a lightness in his heart. From that day on, Noah returned to her stall every day, sometimes with an excuse to buy something new, other times simply to talk. Amara's wit and intelligence drew him in more and more with each conversation. It wasn't long before the two fell in love. Their wedding, held right in the heart of Harlem, became the biggest event of the year, drawing the attention of the entire community. Noah, once isolated in his world of luxury, had finally found someone who gave true meaning to his life. But fate, or the prophecy of a mysterious old man, had not forgotten them. Great challenges were silently waiting, ready to test not only their love, but also their patience and faith in one another. The entire room was bathed in the gentle light of dawn, yet the atmosphere was as heavy as a brewing storm. Noah stepped inside, his eyes fixed on his wife, Amara, who cradled their newborn child in her arms. He had waited 9 long months for this moment, the moment he would meet his heir, the one to carry on his legacy. But instead of joy, his heart tightened as he looked at the baby. Running along the tiny arm of the child was a birthmark, not just any birthmark. It coiled like a snake, its head resting on the wrist, appearing almost alive. Under the soft light, the mark seemed to shift, as if it were watching Noah. He staggered back, his eyes wide with horror. "What is this?" he exclaimed, his voice filled with both fear and anger. Amara, still exhausted from the labor, tried to calm her husband. "It's just a birthmark, Noah. Our son is healthy and beautiful. Look at him." Her voice trembled, her eyes pleading. But Noah couldn't tear his gaze away from the strange mark on the child's arm. "No, Amara. This isn't a sign of life. It's a bad omen. This child is cursed." His words were sharp, fear overpowering reason. Amara held the baby closer, tears streaming down her face. "How can you say that? This is your son. You're talking about your own flesh and blood." Noah turned away, his eyes cold as ice. "My son will not bear such a mark. I cannot accept this." With those words, he walked out of the room, leaving Amara and the child in unbearable pain. Amara looked down at the baby in her arms, her heart breaking but filling with unshakable resolve. If Noah couldn't love their son, she would love him enough for both of them. She named the child Ezra, a name that meant strength. Ezra was not just her son, but a symbol of love and resilience. Though abandoned by his father, Amara vowed he would never feel unloved. "You are my strength," she whispered, her tear-streaked face shining with determination. "No matter who turns their back on us, I will always be here. We'll overcome everything together." Amara knew she would face judgmental glances and whispers about the mark on Ezra's arm, but she didn't care. To her, Ezra was not a curse. He was a gift, a bright flame in the darkness. As the days passed, Amara began to realize that Ezra was no ordinary child. Even as a baby, his eyes held a wisdom far beyond his years. He became not only her solace, but also her reason to fight through every challenge. Meanwhile, Noah buried himself deeper in his own world, distancing himself from his family. He tried to ignore Ezra's existence, but the image of the child with the mysterious mark haunted his dreams. Ezra was not merely a rejected child. He was a mystery, a challenge, and a beacon of hope. And the story of the boy with the snake-shaped birthmark was only just beginning. From a young age, Ezra amazed everyone with his extraordinary intelligence. By the age of 6, while other children were still playing carefree, Ezra stood in the bustling Harlem market, observing and offering ideas that astonished even the most seasoned merchants. "If you display your goods this way, the light from the front will highlight the colors more. Ezra pointed to a stall, his eyes gleaming with insight. "It'll make people stop longer and you'll sell faster." The elderly merchant nodded and followed the boy's advice, and before long the results were exactly as Ezra had predicted. Soon other stalls in the market began adopting his suggestions. Ezra didn't just help merchants improve their displays, he offered tips on bargaining strategies and smarter ways to manage inventory, significantly boosting profits for many. The young boy became a sensation in the market. Whispers about Ezra's intellect spread, but no one could ignore the peculiar snake-shaped birthmark coiled around his wrist. The mark became the center of countless rumors within the community. Some regarded him with admiration. "This is the sign of greatness. This boy is destined to achieve extraordinary things," one woman said, her eyes shining with conviction. But not everyone shared this belief. The more superstitious murmured in dark corners, "This boy carries a curse. That mark isn't random. It's an omen of something terrible." Occasionally, these harsh words reached Ezra's ears, leaving him confused. But every time, Amara was there by his side, her warmth and steadfastness unwavering. "You are stronger than any words, Ezra," she whispered, holding him close. "Your mark doesn't define you. You define yourself. And I know you were born to do great things." Amara's words became a shield, protecting Ezra from doubts and fears. Yet deep down, she knew his journey wouldn't be easy. The birthmark not only set Ezra apart, but also made him the center of attention, both positive and negative. Ezra refused to let the gossip hold him back. Instead of avoiding people's gazes, he faced them head-on. Using his intelligence and curiosity, he learned from everyone around him. Each time he helped someone in the market, people couldn't help but wonder, how could such a young boy think so profoundly? Even so, the curious eyes often hid suspicion. The mark on his wrist still made people cautious. Was this boy truly a genius? Or was the birthmark a sign of something far greater, a challenge or a tragedy too immense for anyone to confront? Ezra, with his remarkable mind and the unwavering love of his mother, began to understand that his life was far from ordinary. He wasn't just a child, he was a symbol of both hope and fear, a flame that no one could extinguish. That night, the house was silent, as if lost in a deep slumber, but Ezra's heart was not. The boy sat in the dark, staring at a small wooden toy he had spent weeks carving. It was a miniature cart, modelled after the one his father, Noah, used to transport goods in the market. Ezra thought that maybe if he made this, his father would smile. Maybe his father would love him. But love didn't come so easily. With determination greater than his fear, Ezra clutched the toy tightly and tiptoed toward Noah's study. A faint light from an oil lamp seeped through the door's crack, illuminating the figure of the man sitting silently at his desk. Ezra opened the door, his voice soft but steady. "Father." Noah looked up, his sharp eyes flashing with surprise at the sight of the boy. He was unaccustomed to being interrupted during his work. "What are you doing here?" His voice was deep and cold, like a wall rising between them. Ezra took a few more steps forward and held out the toy in his hands. "I made this for you. It's like your cart in the market. I thought you'd like it." Noah stared at the toy in his son's small hands, but his gaze quickly shifted to the snake-shaped birthmark curling around Ezra's arm. A wave of fear and anger churned inside him, and he clenched his jaw to keep from saying something he might regret. "I don't need a toy," Noah said, his voice as rigid as steel. "Go back to your mother." Ezra stood still, his eyes brimming with hurt, but he refused to back down. "Father, why don't you love me?" The boy's question rang out like a cry in the silence, shattering the cold atmosphere of the room. Noah felt as if his heart was being squeezed. He couldn't answer. How could he explain that it was his own fear of something he couldn't understand or control that kept him distant from his son? "You wouldn't understand," he murmured, turning his face away to avoid Ezra's gaze. But Ezra didn't look away. His clear, deep eyes seemed to pierce through all the pain Noah tried to bury. After a moment, Ezra took a deep breath, turned, and walked out of the room. He clutched the toy tightly to his chest, as if trying to make up for his father's coldness with the love he still felt for him. As the door closed, Noah sat in the stillness of his study. Ezra's words echoed in his mind. "Why don't you love me?" It wasn't just a question. It was a mirror reflecting all the fear, failure, and emptiness Noah had been hiding for so long. In that moment, he realized that love was never bound by birthmarks or fear. But was it too late to mend the wounds he had caused? Ezra left the room with a heavy heart, but deep down he vowed that one day his father would see his true worth. He wasn't just a boy with a strange birthmark. He was a challenge, a light that even the darkest shadows couldn't extinguish. As Noah's business empire began to crumble, it felt as though everything he had spent his life building was falling apart, piece by piece. Once solid deals dissolved unexpectedly, longtime partners turned away, and his once celebrated reputation became nothing more than whispered ridicule on Harlem's bustling streets. Noah couldn't understand why this was happening. At first he blamed the market, the betrayal of those around him. But the more he reflected, the more he realized that his estrangement from Ezra, the son with the birthmark he had always feared, had left a void in his life that no success could fill. One late afternoon, Noah stood on the balcony of his house, gazing down at the lively streets of Harlem. In the golden glow of the setting sun, he suddenly recalled Ezra's tearful eyes on the night the boy came into his study with a simple yet heartbreaking question. "Why don't you love me?" It was in that moment Noah understood that wealth could never replace love, and that true legacy wasn't about what he accumulated, but about what he left in the heart of his son. "Enough," Noah muttered to himself. "I can't keep running away." With a heavy but determined heart, he walked into Ezra's room. The boy was sitting on the floor, focused on carving a small wooden object. When Ezra saw his father, a flicker of surprise crossed his face, quickly replaced by caution. Noah knelt down and placed a hand on the boy's shoulder. "Ezra," he said, his voice thick with emotion, "I've been wrong. I let my fear cloud my heart, but from this moment on, I promise I will never turn my back on you again. You're not just my son, you're someone I'm proud to call my heir." Ezra looked up at his father, his eyes brimming with emotion. After a moment, he threw himself into Noah's arms, and for the first time, both father and son felt the true warmth of family. The story closes with the image of Noah and Ezra standing side by side on the rooftop, looking out over the city. The brilliant sunlight bathed all of Harlem, reflecting off Ezra's birthmark, not as a symbol of fear anymore, but as a mark of strength and acceptance. The tale of Noah and Ezra is not just a story of family. It is a powerful reminder that fear cannot define us unless we allow it to. Be brave enough to face what unsettles you, because only then can you truly embrace love and deep connection. Leave your thoughts in the comments, share how this story touched you, and don't forget to hit like if it inspired you. If you want to hear more heartfelt stories and meaningful lessons, click subscribe to the African Tales Best channel and turn on notifications. We're here to bring you stories that resonate with your heart and soul. Share this with your friends and family, especially African Americans, to preserve and celebrate cultural heritage. Let's continue to write your story together, because everyone has a journey worth telling.